Hello, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and today we're discussing the history and healing of music with producer, musicologist, and author Dr. Guthrie P. Ramsey Jr. We're going to discuss his latest book, a collection of essays entitled Who Hears Here? On Black music, past and present. And thank you so much. You know, the title needs a definition in itself. You know, who hears here? Thanks for being with us, and I know that you're going to give us, because you are a professor of music, you're going to give us whatever that last class in the semester would be to explain the entire history of Black music and what it means to this country. But the title of your book, which is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for showing up for the last day of class.
That was usually my way of going at any rate, you know, as my parents can tell you, you know, but.
So what did I miss? This is the eternal question. What did I miss? Well, the title for the book is actually titled after an essay that appears in the book that I wrote about 2 decades ago when I was a Black musicologist trying to understand what planet I had landed on. It was a very white field when I first entered, and it was going through some changes. And, you know, I was sitting down writing, trying to be someone else. The question was, who did I need to be in order to make it in the field? And then at some point I decided, you know, I have to be myself. I have to write myself into the history of the field. And the title is actually taken from a literary scholar, Anne Lucille, who asked, who reads here? Who's reading here? Or something like that. And so, you know, musicians, we like to put a little twist on things. So who hears here?
Right, right. Well, I thought it's so interesting that the battle that you fought was that you're actually a fabulous musician as well as an academic, and there were many people along the way who didn't think you could do both, and both camps were suspicious of you. You know, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in the classroom? Or, you know, when you're sitting down, you know, playing with your group. You know, so that dichotomy, it was unusual to begin with.
Yeah, it was a little tough because you had to show your commitment. And by showing your commitment as a scholar, you had to show that, well, I'm spending 12 hours a day in the library and not behind the piano, and certainly not doing what I was doing, you know, sneaking my little church in during my graduate school time. So you really did have to sneak around and not actually show how musically engaged you still were.
So the book goes through various aspects of our music, and you know, in our pre-conversation, I was saying to you, well, does it start in, you know, in Egypt and Africa, where civilization started? Is that where? And what you said was, yes, I suppose you could place it there, but then once it hit these shores, it really became something else entirely. So talk to us a little bit about the history, because we know that there were many hundreds of years of slavery during which this music morphed. And I said to you, I thought this term, the way of referring to it as songs of sorrow, you know, during that time were, you know, is the apt way of describing it.
Yeah, sure. One of the first musical forms to be named African American music was the spirituals, this body of song that emerged out of the enslaved period. And one of the monikers people placed on it was sorrow songs, but there were other kinds of spirituals. There were jubilee songs, you know, happier, upbeat, you know, music. And so the sorrow songs, I look at it as kind of a brand name, or something that could encapsulate not only what you were hearing, but the sentiment behind some of those songs.
Sure, sure. And so gospel became, those songs, gospel, that was how we were identified. That was Black music.
Well, gospel music emerged out of the spirituals, but we didn't really start calling it gospel music until the 1920s, when Thomas Dorsey, famously the father of gospel music, pulled together a choir and in Chicago, and the rest is history.
Right. Well, and now right after that, the blues. You see, I'm carrying you through. I know that if I were in your class, I would be getting much more detail.
Yeah, well, and it's really interesting that you placed the gospel and the blues together because they're very, very similar sonically. It's just one was known as the quote unquote devil's music, and one was known as the the praising God, and often the same musicians were doing
both,
it. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Either
Yeah,
in
like
church
me.
right, like you, right. Now I, for some reason, think of the blues as a woman thing. That the tellers of the story of the blues. Am I off in that, or? Most of the singers that I relate to when I think about the blues are, the Bessie Smith. That's when all of our big singers got their chance.
Oh, sure. That classic blues era with Bessie Smith and Mamie Smith certainly put women performers on the map. And I love when people say things like, well, to me, the blues is all a woman thing. And I'll love to tell people
Right.
this thing that my professor used to say, well, from your perspective, I suppose that's true. And so it's really about one's relationship to the music, and it's constantly being made. And as a music historian, my idea is to come in, if I hear a statement like that, tell me more. What about your history and this music make it such a dynamic experience that you say that this is women's music? I love that.
I know. Well, we can certainly tell you about the blues, that's for sure. But in reading the book, you talk about so many of your influences, and that's share with us who, in your career were the ones who led you, to this very rich discussion of both the academics of it, and getting a PhD in it, and living the jazz life as well.
Well, as a musician and as a scholar, I can think about two sets of, influences. If I think about the musical side, it was always the musicians that I had access to that influenced me. Of course, I was focused on those musicians who were making records and that I could dream about, and maybe one day I'll play with them or meet them. But it was always the local musicians, the ones in my church, the ones in my high school band, the teachers who talked to me and taught me. Those were my most influential people. Now, if you switch to the scholarly side, of course, it was my professors, the Rich Crawfords, the Samuel Floyd Juniors, Portia Malsby, these scholars who were working in the 1970s and the 1980s who actually put the formal study of black music on the map.
And now that you're one of those map makers, and you, I say, have a request out for many more, to take it up seriously, or how has that changed on the academic level?
It has changed some since I started in the late 1980s. I'd like to think that my career has played a part in that. I think Tammy Cornotto lays it out very well in the foreword to the book, Who Hears Here, that what she saw my role as in terms of the younger black musicologists coming up behind me. They think that I kind of made some elbow room for them to come in. And I certainly had a big mouth and some, well, I guess you could call it Chicago chutzpah,
Right.
to just not be afraid and say that this really needs to happen. Because what I noticed is that I was in a moment where the study of black music was gaining ground, but the field was still kind of blocking black scholars out, through, ways, intentional and unintentional. So I just thought that needed to change, and I started writing about that early on.
Right. And in fact, she had an assignment to do the history of a certain section of music, and she says, "No, I think Dr. Ramsey should do this." Right? She
Oh yeah, yeah, yes.
turned it over to you. She said, "My time will come, but this is his, his territory." We left it off in the blues, but let's move music a little bit more in terms, and also as you write about the influence going both ways on life in music and life affecting it. So after we had Bessie Smith and all of those great women blues singers, the next era of importance in our history was jazz.
Of course, and I have to say, people always ask me, what's my favorite, style of music? And I have to say that there was something about jazz that attracted me, and I think it started with the men in my family. We heard a lot of different music in the home, but there was something about jazz and my uncles and my father that really made me strongly identify with it. And that's something I talk about in the book, these personal connections we make with sound organization that become so important to our foundation, to who we believe we are in the world, that we manage the world through style, through how we wear our clothes, our hair, our shoes, our cars, and music fits right in that. What musics we strongly identify with, we believe say something very important about who we are.
Right. And that's when we go through the phase of playing one song 50 or 100 times, right?
Yes.
Because that's us. That's
Yes.
our son. Well, your whole family is musical, artistic. Your wife, Kelly Jones, we've interviewed her here on Black America. We said a fantastic art historian, curator, and also the head of the African American program at Columbia.
Yes,
well.
it's a brand new department, and she's leading it right now and leading it to greatness.
Yes, she is. We're big fans, and this is such a family. And now your daughter is singing, and we've got a clip. Tell us a little bit about her.
Well, she got her start, I think. I had a gig. She was in high school. I had a gig, and the singer couldn't come. And I said, Bridget, I need you. Can you learn these 3 jazz standards? And she's very cooperative and had been around music her whole life and studied piano, and her older siblings had played as well. And sure, Dad, and she learned the songs.
A cooperative teenager.
I think music has something to do with that. I was doing something fun.
Right. So we have a clip of Bridget singing, you playing, and Audra, if we could play a little bit of that now, it would be great to see.
Wish I knew why I'm so in love with you. No one else in this world will do. Darling, please save your love for me. Run away. If I were wise, I'd run away. But like a fool in love, I'll stay and pray that you'll save your love for me.
Whoa, that is so wonderful. Proud dad,
Of course. It's one of the biggest delights of my life to share music with my children and now my grandchildren. I've gotten them started on string instruments, and I can't tell you how it feels to pass along something that has been so important to my well-being throughout my life along to the next generation. It's just an amazing feeling.
Right. And we were talking, apparently Bridget has 2 children under 2 now, so she's doing a few other things, right?
These days.
So her singing may be a bit on hiatus, but she's certainly got the talent. This is great.
Let's bring her back.
All right. No. She has a little bit more work to do with those babies, but after that, we want to see her in the studio with her dad. So, I just recently watched the documentary on CNN about Dionne Warwick. And in it, there is this fabulous discussion with Snoop Dogg about hip hop. And I know we're going over a few phases of the musical history, but hip hop is so exciting and also problematic. And the story is that she called Snoop Dogg to her house. She says, "I want you to bring your buddies to be at my house at 7 a.m., not a minute before, not a minute after. I have a few things to say to you." And she was objecting to the language, especially the misogynistic language in hip hop. So talk to us about how you feel about that, your study of that, and the place of it in Black lives.
Well, I can't wait to see this documentary, first of all. This sounds like a fascinating discussion between two icons of different eras and different genres. I don't think that hip hop has cornered the market on misogyny or bad influences or anything like that. I mean, if we could just expand out to the larger entertainment industry, there are other musical genres and films that do the same thing. And in fact, I would say that when gospel music first came out in the 1920s and the early 1930s, they kicked Mahalia Jackson out of the church and said, "Get that devil music out of here.
Huh.
This is too big of a departure from what it is that we're doing." So this is a recurring theme in Black music history, this idea that some people find some things precious in it, and then another group of people will find the same gestures totally offensive and out of the question. So my personal feelings about hip hop is that it's just another one of the languages that has emerged out of this great history, and I want to keep up with it. And I'm thinking that Dionne must be listening to a lot of hip hop herself, because how would she know what they were saying or doing?
No. I mean, she was objecting to the name calling of women. Again, just as blues, relates to women, for perhaps some of the wrong reasons, even though they had great careers, the singers. Hip hop, seemed to diminish women and name calling to an extravagant sense. So
absolutely, I can definitely, I believe in your definition of that. What I remember about hip hop mostly is beginning to teach it as it emerged, and someone of my generation would never use the N-word in polite company. If you did say that, you would certainly not say it in earshot of your parents. And you would not refer to someone that you liked in that thing. So, in order to stay hip with the students who are coming in, because remember, I'm aging, but they're always the same age coming in over my entire career. And so I'm listening to what they're listening to, and I had to make a lot of adjustments. How do I teach be in a college, setting and
Sure.
teach this word? You had to come up with ways to deal with it, and even the B word. Let's talk about that.
yes, the B word, right?
Yeah, and I could see how someone of Dionne Warwick's stature and of her moment would say, "Look, I built an entire career. I was a trailblazer. I was an icon without resorting to this type of language and wanting to sit down and talk about it." I admire her for wanting to actually talk to people and find out what it is that you're getting out of it. I bet part of the reason is misogyny sells, racism sells, discontent sells. So if you're trying to make it in the music industry and really make it and make the big money, you have to conform to what this industry promotes and rewards. If there was no reward in it, you wouldn't hear a B word. You wouldn't hear an N word.
Well, there's definitely reward, and hip hop is now officially 50 years old. Doesn't that make you feel? because I remember the first hip hop lyrics I heard, that really 50 years ago. And I'm from Queens too, where a lot of the guys came from.
Right, right.
So,
Has it aged well? That's the question.
right. Well, 50, but definitely rewarding, because we have quite a few multimillionaires who are, who have made it in the hip hop world.
Indeed,
So,
and I take up hip hop in the book too. I
Right.
talk about the artist Nas, and I talk about Robert Glasper's Black Radio Project, which combined gospel and jazz and hip hop production values. So it's for all of the controversies that people want to talk about. It has been such a rich pool of creativity, and it's doing exactly what jazz, which in its day was thought to be, today it's America's classical music. When it first came out, people thought, well, this is just music of the brothel. How can we possibly promote this as Black excellence?
yes, remember those new jazz people were very scandalous, right? The book cover is, this piece of artwork is just beautiful. If you can talk with us about your conversation with the artist and how this came about.
Oh my goodness, thank you for asking me about that, because I'm so proud to have a Jack Whitten painting on the front cover. This is his painting that he dedicated to the jazz pianist Bud Powell, a previous book of mine, and he was a family friend before he passed away. And first of all, I love his work. I find it so musical. And I was asked to write an essay for a German museum that had an exhibition of his, and they wanted me to write about all of the musical paintings that he had done. So that was my effort, and this is when I started really getting into his work, and I thought, God, wow, that would be great to have this art on my cover, and the estate agreed, and I'm so happy.
And he also gave you a quote that has also steered your thinking and the rest of your work.
Indeed. I was following Kelly Jones on a studio visit of his, to his studio. She was curating an exhibition for Studio Museum of Harlem. Mm-hmm. And I met him in 2005, I think, and I walked into his studio, and I'm enamored. I'm seeing all this great painting laying around. And here's a Black man in my father's generation in this huge studio, and he's surrounded by his work. He's eating fried fish that that he had prepared for himself. And he turned to me and he said, if you don't experiment, you'll die.
Huh.
And I never forgot it.
And so the experimentation, as you were doing, talk to us about all your projects. I started listening to a couple of your podcasts. I want to get to all of them because, you do, interview some of the great musicians and thinkers about music. So you've got a media enterprise that goes with your jazz playing, your academics, and your media production.
Thank you for asking. I can publicly announce that I am an LLC, the Musicology Media Group, and we do all of that. We do podcasts, we do creative production. It's sort of like my way of giving back to artistic communities, because sometimes people who can't afford an Ivy League education, by the way, still need access to what it is I've been able to amass through the years, and gives me a way to be able to share it. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. Music has taken me so many places. It's taken me to around the world. It's taken me as a poor to working class young Black boy into relationships that I could never have dreamed of. It's been a vehicle for me, and I'm so grateful for music.
Right. And when people ask you to define the term musicologist, what kinds of things do you put into that description?
Well, musicology for me is the scientific study of music that takes into account the context of the listening and creative experience, and it tries to understand why are these people listening to this music at this time and in this place. That's a quote from the British musicologist Christopher Small, and it has guided all of my teaching and all of my research.
And who do you see now? If you're going to say who's doing the thing that we should be watching in music, just to explain what our lives are like or are going to be like?
I would say you should listen to, this is going to sound terrible, but my publicist is going to love this answer.
Yeah.
You should listen to what we are producing out of the Musicology Media Group, because currently we have a project called the Singles Project, and we are choosing artists in the Philadelphia area who need the kind of support that we offer. So that's what I would say. Why would I say listening to someone else's music? I wrote a whole book about everybody else's music.
I know. Now you want us to, and
Listen.
I was listening to your work with Chemist. So talk to us about that.
Oh, thank you for mentioning that. Yes, Chemist is a young artist who had been reading my work since he was a teenager. And he is a brilliant rapper, and it's in his 30s, I think. And he was given the assignment of reading some of these essays and then creating a rap, with me and my production team. And he knocked it out the park.
He sure did. He
Yeah.
sure did. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And now that we can hear that, if we Google you, you will find it. But give us again the address for your all of your music projects.
You can follow me at Ramsey Music on Instagram, at Dr. Guy Musicology on Twitter, and you can find the music on all of the platforms.
Okay, all of the platforms. And I hope you will come back. We are plotting you and Kelly Jones and Bridget. We'll bring the whole family.
Oh, great.
The next time to do a family conversation about all of the artistic work that you all do. But thank you so much for being with us today.
What a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Right. And that is it for us at this time. I want to thank my guest, Dr. Guthrie P. Ramsey Jr., musicologist, producer, and author of Who Hears Here on Black Music, Past and Present. And as we say goodbye, we're going to let you listen to Who Hears Who, featuring Chemist with Dr. Guthrie on the piano. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. We'll see you the next time.
It's only right that I show you myself, and the dance gonna tell you about the rain. The feet gonna kick up all the dirt, and the dirt gonna tell you about the pain. And the sound only permeates the world, cause we rode on so many of its waves, from a land where they could barely handle one of the 12 bars in the blues from which I came, to re-black in the stories of my blood, and the war for my kind of have a say. On the plane where most in the rooms told our stories through the white gaze. So who here is the art of the East? Who